I've made videos in the past defending some of the less popular aspects of the Ben 10 franchise, and as such, it was only a matter of time until I would sit down to discuss the topic of today's video, Humungoopsaur. Humungoopsaur gets a bad rep as a seemingly useless and or pointless fusion, or at least that appears to be the general consensus amongst the more vocal majority of the Ben 10 fandom. This opinion, like most Ben 10 fan opinions, is WRONG! And I'm about to tell you why. Trust me, I'm the one who said NRG wasn't radioactive and then retroactively said I was wrong. Clearly, I know what I'm talking about. If you go on to enjoy this video, please consider going and checking out the rest of my Ben 10 content, leaving a like on this video, and subscribing. And now, without further ado, let's get right into it. It's hero time!
How it feel meeting a beast? How it feel meeting a monster? Let me rephrase it. How does it feel meeting me?
So what we immediately have to ask ourselves is why did Ben want to become Humungoopsaur in the first place? If we take a look at the scene where this particular transformation debuted, well, we don't really get much, seeing as this transformation just sort of appears out of nowhere. I've had comments saying that Ben has called out the name of Humungoopsaur before he transformed into him, but no, this just isn't true. WRONG! Humungoopsaur literally appears out of thin air. This is the first scene of the episode. There is nothing before this scene. You can go and watch the episode yourself if you don't believe me. It's End of an Era from Omniverse. With this said, we can't know for sure whether Humungoopsaur was a mistransformation or an intentional selection. As a result, it is unclear at face value why Ben would or wouldn't choose this transformation. But through the powers of science and deduction, we can reach our answer. Let's start by acknowledging how fusion works in Ben 10. When regarding two-way fusions, it is largely believed that the resulting hybrid takes exactly half the DNA and therefore half the traits of each parent species. This belief stems from Kevin Levin's interaction with Diamond Head in the original series, where it is explained to us how fusion can result in the diminishing of a trait's full capabilities.
I've got all your powers, plus my own! I'm Kevin 11!
Too bad each one of those is only a tenth as powerful as mine!
This is why Stink Arms can't fly and why he's half as strong as Forearms should be, or why Humungoopsaur isn't as strong as either Forearms or Humungoopsaur would be on their own, but the fusion makes up for this by granting one form the additional abilities of both separate aliens. Essentially, a fusion can both diminish the traits of an alien and or also create a wider arsenal of abilities for said alien. We know that this logic applied to Humungoopsaur as well, as in this scene, he remarks about the fact that just 2 more punches would have been all he needed in order to smash through the metal door in the way.
2 more punches and I would have had it open!
Something that regular Humungoopsaur definitely could have done, especially when considering the fact that a fucking sword could pierce through it. This thing must have like sharpness 3 at least. So knowing that Humungoopsaur is only half the physical might of Humungoopsaur, how does this transformation have any benefits whatsoever? Well, that's where we have to turn our attention to Goop.
2 more!
Goop possesses the ability to alter the viscosity of his slime in order to create puddles of acid. And considering the fact that Humungoopsaur didn't just do this in order to break through the door, then either this door is made of acid-proof materials such as titanium or tantalum, or Humungoopsaur isn't capable of manipulating the viscosity of his body to as great of a degree as Goop can, which would line up with what we know to be true about fusions in the Ben 10 franchise. That being said, Humungoopsaur definitely has benefits in other areas that we are left to discuss. When we consider Humungoopsaur's enhanced size and Goop's ability to stretch, the pieces begin to fall into place. We've seen before that Goop's slime is incredibly stretchy, being able to stretch out to encompass the scale of an entire planet on one occasion in the past. Even if this slime isn't as stretchy due to being part of Accessorian, having more overall volume of slime to stretch would more than make up for this for Humungoopsaur. Basically, Humungoopsaur's body has more stretchy slime at its disposal than a regular polymorph would. This would mean that Humungoopsaur would be able to stretch further, cover wider areas, etc. This could allow his attacks to reach over longer ranges, Gum Gum Pistol style, allow him to ensnare a larger area in a shorter amount of time, and so on. On the topic of the Gum Gum Pistol, that is another and possibly the greatest benefit of Humungoopsaur as a fusion: elastic potential. As we've just discussed, polymorphs possess an incredible capability for stretching out their body mass. And even if Humungoopsaur can only do it half as good as normal, the additional body mass likely makes up for this to at least some degree. Taking a moment to briefly explain the laws of elastic potential, please bear with me on this because I will do my best to try and explain this as easily and understandably as possible for you. Elastic potential is the energy stored up when something elastic is stretched out. Basically, when you stretch a rubber band, elastic potential is created. Elastic potential is stored until the force that is stretching out the object is released, at which point the object returns to its original shape and the stored up elastic potential is released outwards. This is to say, when you stretch out a rubber band and let it go, it snaps back into place.
That's the last rubber band I had.
If you've ever been hit by a rubber band, you know that this can provide quite the sting. But why is that? To save a very long and complicated explanation, I'll boil it down to its most bare elements. The amount of elastic potential generated by an object being stretched is equal to the amount of effort being put in to stretch that object. That is to say, when you let the object snap back into its original shape, the amount of force that was originally put into the stretching is the amount of force that gets put back out when it's returned to its original shape.
That's the last rubber band I had.
So by that logic, if you stretch out a rubber band and then let it go, it will output that same amount of force when returning to its original shape as you did when you stretched it, resulting in that slap that you get from getting hit by an elastic band.
Oh, wow!
This is important to be aware of for a calculation that I'm about to provide. Let's look at the time Goop stretched out to the size of the entire planet of Pisces. If we assume that Pisces is relatively more or less the same size as the planet Earth, it will have a radius of around 6,371 kilometers. For anyone who doesn't know, the radius is the distance from the center of a shape to its boundary edge, aka its circumference. If regular Goop can stretch out to this radius without issue, and if an alien fusion only has abilities half as powerful as their parent species, then even if Humungoopsaur can only stretch out his body as half as well as Goop can, he can still stretch out to roughly 3,365.5 kilometers, and that isn't accounting for the fact that his body has additional body mass to draw from, which would likely put his ability to stretch close to that of a regular polymorph thanks to additional mass balancing out the loss in how far the body mass itself can be stretched. Basically, if Humungoopsaur is capable of stretching out his arms by 3,365.5 kilometers, then he can generate 3,365.5 kilometers worth of elastic potential. You can see where this is going. If we consider the fact that Goop was able to cover the distance along the radius in a matter of an instant, then even if Humungoopsaur takes twice as long, he's still covering that distance in such an infinitesimally small amount of time that it's genuinely hard to calculate how fast he would be moving, and thus it's kind of irrelevant. All of this is to say, if Humungoopsaur stretched his arm out as far as possible and then threw a punch after returning that arm to its original length, he would be generating around 3,365.5 kilometers of elastic potential behind that punch. Now let's put that into a calculator and see how much force that would actually generate. For the sake of argument, let's say that Humungoopsaur's fist weighs roughly 50 kilograms. That's just a random number off the top of my head when considering the weight of muscle, the size of the body, the probable density of the slime, etc. This number is very, very loose. The impact velocity of the punch is 3,365.5 kilometers, as we've just discussed. The collision distance is how much of a dent is formed on impact, so let's just say that a 2-inch dent is formed at the site of impact. This is assuming that one of Humungoopsaur's knuckles are 2 inches long and would make impact before the rest of the fist, so at the exact moment of impact, a 2-inch dent is punched into the target. Let's say that the impact lasts a single millisecond. As the rest of the hand is about to make contact, and with all of this generated force, the target is likely to go flying backwards from even just knuckle contact anyway. If we put all of this calculation together, the amount of newtons of force generated by such a punch would be averaging out at roughly 5,574,109.375 newtons. When you consider that only 3,000 newtons of force are required to break a human bone, and the fact that an atomic bomb generates about 5 newtons per 2 centimeters squared over a distance of 5 meters, then this initial collision over a 2-inch space is possibly the most powerful force on the planet.
I am no bug. I am...
And I am going to be completely honest, I am much more knowledgeable on biology than I am physics, so I'm sure that I calculated this wrong and some other much smarter person could come along and provide an actual answer to this calculation. But going off of my very, very, very rough layman's calculation here, we can get a very, very, very rough idea of just how devastating of a punch Humungoopsaur could dish out. This transformation could deliver a punch that would literally reduce your bones to dust. But then you're probably asking, okay, why didn't he do that in the episode? Well, there's multiple explanations to this. One, Humungoopsaur was in an enclosed hallway, so he quite literally could not have generated enough elastic potential by stretching out in order to unleash such a punch. I mean, he doesn't have enough space to do so. Two, this is literally his house and he was right next to his lover. God, I feel sick just saying that out loud about Kai. What the fuck were they thinking? If he threw this kind of punch, the catastrophic amount of force generated would absolutely create some sort of vacuum that would get her and the house sucked into it as well as probably at least a large number of the civilians outside. Thirdly, Ben may well not have even known that such a feat was something he would be capable of. After all, gut rot proved that Ben can do things without knowing the science that goes into such things, so it isn't as if he knows all the laws of elastic potential off the top of his head anyway.
Don't ask me how I know or how I do it. Your guess is as good as mine, right?
Fourth, he was dealing with Dr. Animo. As evil as that guy is Animo really enough of a threat to deserve a punch like that? Yes, absolutely, my man is the GOAT! And fifth, sort of continuing on from that last point, this attack would definitely be a one-shot, one-kill kind of move, and seeing as Ben doesn't like to kill, this is Kevin! I really doubt he'd pull this out against the fucking Zabadoo here. And though we've just spent the last little bit discussing this ultimate punch attack, there's a few more benefits to this transformation that we can briefly cover as well. Due to the fact that Humungoopsaur is composed of bouncy slime, he would be resistant to physical attacks as he would be impact absorbent. He would gain Goop's elemental immunities, or at least gain resistances to what Goop is immune to. And seeing as the anti-gravity projector is right there and accounted for, that would mean that Humungoopsaur would almost certainly have the ability to fly, which is great. On top of that, being so rubbery and made of slime means no broken bones, which could have been an interesting benefit if the show writers didn't forget that one time Humungoopsaur left battle damage on Ben's real body. Almost disappointed about that one, but I mean, it only would have gone so far anyway. They can't really show gore in a kid's cartoon. Also, because he's all gooey, he can make some epic slime content on YouTube and probably get millions of subscribers and billions of dollars. Very jealous of that. But with all of that said, that's about all I have to say with this video. Please, if you can figure out the actual calculations of how much force Humungoopsaur's punch would generate, please leave a comment below or make a response video, and I will very happily link it and refer to it in my next discussion video. If you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like, subscribing, and shooting me a comment. It really helps with the algorithm. And now, let's move into our usual post-video rituals. First of all, a big shout out to our channel's Thunderbeast, Mineral Muir, Victor Matusik, Charscream AA, Captain San Sandwich, and Utamit. If you want to help support the channel just like these wonderful people, please consider becoming a channel member today and or donating to my PayPal. There is a link in the description. Now let's move into last video's poll, where I asked you guys if you would rather be a plant, zombie, or sapient robot in the world of PvZ. With 654 total votes, 78% of you said plant, which is a massive margin, 4% said zombie, and 17% said machine. Good on you guys. As surprising as this might seem, seeing as I am very much a big fan of robots, I'm actually on the side of plants here. Sunflower Nation for life, baby! I don't really have much of an explanation as to why, it just seems like a good gig, really. So now let's give a shout out to everyone who correctly guessed that I would want to be a plant. So, big shout out to King Galaxy Skulls 666, Nathan T29, and the Corruptor 985. Congratulations on getting that one correct, everyone. And now let's go over last video's secret message.
Bite of 87?
Seeing as Zed edited the last video, the placement of the secret message was much sneakier than usual. See that? Yep, there it is. Because it was so secret, nobody actually found last video's secret message. Tisk tisk everyone, disappointed. But in all seriousness, that was a very tough one, so it's no surprise that nobody actually caught it. Once again, there is a secret message somewhere hidden in this video, and it's a lot easier to find. So find that and leave it in a comment below in order to get a shout out in my next discussion video. And with that, let's finish things off by moving into this video's poll. This time, I'm going to be asking you guys a bit of a funky question. Which version of Ben would you most trust with your life if you were stuck with them on an alien planet? Mad Ben, Benzaro, Bad Ben, or No Watch Ben? Specifically before he has the watch, so he knows nothing about aliens. Leave a comment below guessing which one I would trust the most for a chance to get a shout out in my next discussion video. And with that, I'll be seeing you all next time. Adios, fellow heroes.